out. So we just talked about how even when outside of the public school system across this country, we as black people, when we even try to create independent platforms where we can further educate our children with books where you have images of us and reminding black kids that you can do and be anything that you want to be. So you've got white supremacists threatening and closing on that scale. Then you've got obviously a lack of healthy parenting, co-parenting villages within our school system in the country. What is we gonna do? What is we gonna do?
They still trying to suppress us. They trying to still keep us down. They still don't want us to learn our knowledge. None of that. So as long as they can keep all of that from our kids, they feel like they winning. So, I mean, it's basically like our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers used to tell us, they're going to keep on putting their foot on our neck, basically, because even though we are intelligent, a lot of black people have grown, different things like that, they still trying to suppress us and keep us under their thumb. It's always Big Brother in the sky watching. So,
Valerie, thank you so much for your call. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your call. Angela, good morning. You are live with DT&Telly. What is your question or comment?
Good morning, DT&Telly. This is Angela, and I'm calling because, hey, I've talked about this before where, I'm a white woman, I have white children, and my son has complained about in the education system, why don't we talk about this? And, I don't know what you deal with on a daily basis, but what I feel like is, and you've talked about this, it's because of the people in charge of our education systems don't want to teach that. They don't want to open that up. They don't want to talk about it because if you don't talk about it, it didn't happen. And it's frustrating even to people who aren't of the black race not to get educated in that. So I just want you to know that other people want to learn this, and I don't know why we don't teach it. Like I said, I think they just want to shovel it, like the woman said before. Let's shove it underneath the rug if we don't talk about it, if we don't teach it. We don't have to deal with it. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to face the way we treated people then and now still.
Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah, that is great. Thank you for calling in. That is so true, and we always want to hear from everyone's perspective. And I mean, because we always look at it, and we can only look at it from our lens and our experiences, but it's good to hear what other people are thinking, because just like we don't want to be clumped into one big group and everybody thinks the same way, we don't want to put that same thing on other ethnicities and think that everybody thinks this way and everybody thinks that way. So we have another caller, Ben. I'm not seeing the name. Ben, who's the caller? Dan, you on Truth Be Told with DT&Telly. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. First of all, good morning. Peace. Thank you guys for waking up this morning, to be here with us and on time. Appreciate that. I just had a comment. It's sad that that lady has to go through that, especially as a business owner and everything. You got people that want to affect their livelihood and everything. But honestly, this stuff is going to happen continually, daily, until we start putting our foot on their necks, too. And that comes by us, honestly, back to organizing, having our own organizations. And, I mean, times are really changing and everything where we can start seeing a lot of these old ways, especially with these political parties, they're starting to dying out. I won't be surprised, from years from now when you see the Republicans and the Democrat go back to being a Democratic Republic party, because they know that we're growing in numbers. And the next generation is starting to link up and everything. So that's all it's going to have to take, is that we honestly have to start really pulling ourselves back together and putting our foot on their neck and standing on these policies and changing them and making ourselves present. It's sad that lady had to, close her doors and everything. Honestly, I wouldn't have closed these. I'd have had some people out standing out front to ensure that well protected.
You would have hired your own security, is what you're saying, Dan?
Yeah, hey, yep. It's a new world out here. Hey, I can hire these things now.
Gotcha.
Well, and Dan, thank you for your call, and I completely agree with you. And I just also want to remind each of us, because this is one woman. We don't know her situation. She could be a single woman of a black son who doesn't necessarily have access to that type of security or protection. And again, as a mother of a black son, I know what it feels like based on the images where we see young black men continuing to be portrayed as thugs and criminals, and then see black men continue on television, on media, getting shot, brutalized, etc., to then have someone call your business and distinctively detail what your son looks like, what he's wearing. It's for her, it's not worth it.
I got to push back on that, DT, because it doesn't matter what her situation is. She shouldn't have to go through that, period. Like, regardless. I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. It doesn't matter what situation she's in. She should be protected, and she shouldn't have to worry about what you had to worry about for 21 years and probably still to this day of having a black child that is unprotected out here.
Well, I don't think you're pushing back. I think you're agreeing. It's like I'm talking about maybe why she made the decision.
Oh,
because
okay,
again, Yeah, look, I think we're agreeing with one another.
No, I thought you were saying because of the circumstance. I'm just like, look, it doesn't matter.
What you're describing, and I always, now speaking of pushback, because I know we've had other callers that say, well, you should, again, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right.
Yeah, we should be able to have our own businesses not being disrupted. Mm-hmm. We should be able to walk down the street and not be profiled. But again, as I've said before, Telly, we don't live in that type of world.
That's not the real world. Yeah.
People keep saying,
never have.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm done with the we should conversation.
Yeah.
I'm more along the lines with Dan in terms of how do we come together? Because if you think about it, when Valerie called in earlier, as well as Angela's son is saying, why don't we see more representative of all different types of races? Valerie said, we need to take it back to the old school of where we raised our kids as a village, because that is what has resulted into your point, Telly, parents walking into the school and cussing out the teacher versus disciplining their child. It's all related. So the question is, now what? Because she closed her business, and rightfully so from an empathetic standpoint. However, that gave that crazy person, as Tony mentioned, the green light to keep calling black businesses and threatening.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's now what?
Yeah, you're right.